Mananasitu's colleagues, the Committee of the Whole of the 37th Guam Legislature is back from recess. At this time, I will recognize Speaker Therese Terlahi. You are recognized. Good morning. Colleagues, I do apologize. When we left off yesterday, the motion that was proffered by Senator San Augustine was withdrawn and accepted. And now we are on the third round still with Senator Jesse Lahan. Senator Jesse? Senator Brown? Senator Roy, do you have a point of information?
No, can I ask for the body to just pause for a moment of silence for one of our employees who passed away, unfortunately, yesterday? If we can
Yes,
all rise.
thank you very much, Senator Roy. Colleagues, please bow your heads for a moment of silence. Let's stand as we recognize a very long-time employee who was with us, if not almost 20 years at the Guam Legislature, Mr. Pete Kichichu. We extend our condolences to his family on their great loss. May perpetual light shine upon him. Amen. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you very much, Senator Roy, for that. Secretary Shelton. Senator Sabina. Minority Leader Senator Duenas. Senator Barnett. Speaker Terlahi. Speaker on the motion to close now.
Yes, if I could just combine my third round with my closing,
Yes.
I will just do that right now.
Yes, and you're yielding your time. He's yielding his time.
Oh, thank you. All right. Again, so thanks to my colleagues for all the debate on the bill, and of course, I'm very grateful for the Guam Department of Education and Division of Environmental Health from Public Health for having spent that time with us to make sure everybody is updated and on the same page. This all began with sanitary rules and regulations that have actually been in place always. Schools are always required to comply with sanitary rules and regulations. That's why for years they've always been under threat of being closed if they found violations. And we've seen them close even this year. Even last year. What's new is that the sanitary rules and regulations were updated 4 years ago, and GDOE asked for an extension and was given one, and then they were called on it after 4 years to make sure that the schools are finally improved. And the reason that was done, maybe everybody had their own reason, but why it was a very excellent timing is because DOE at that moment had $130 million in ARP funds that they had not spent. Despite the conditions of the school, they still had not spent it. And on top of that, we gave them $20 million to take care of those schools. And they had great plans for the $20 million to use it as matching funds to get even more funds for direct repair of the schools. But what happened during the 4 years is that public health did not inspect the schools regularly. They relied on GDOE to make sure the schools were safe. But what ended up happening is that the schools were not safe. We ended up having to close schools for infestations, for buildings that were literally crumbling on the students. Some of them had asbestos, I think. That was the finding at one of these, at least. But the principals and the teachers for years, they know the schools are old, but they've been working with them for years and years, for decades. And they were told, and they testified, and they told us, we were told there's no money, there's no money, there's no money to repair the schools, so we will accept living like this. But that was not the truth. The truth is there is money to fix the schools. And if we don't use that money right now to fix those schools, and we use it for personnel instead, or payroll, and we just don't fix those schools, and we promise, like many other legislatures before us, that we are going to set that money aside and fix these schools, it doesn't happen. Past legislatures made appropriations to repair the schools, to build Simon Sanchez, but that money that was supposed to be set aside was not. It was used for other purposes. So since April, the schools are on notice that they have to pass inspections this year, and they have been working diligently to get assessments in every school. They know generally the status. And what they found out early on was that there were some schools where they were going to use ARP funds for CIP project, capital improvement, that because they were construction projects, might take those schools offline for 6 months or even a year, depending. So they knew that. We knew we could not start the school year with 41 schools. Everybody who is paying attention should have known that. So we were down. DOE took 2 off. They were going to repair the rest. 6 of these are leased. So that's 6 less for DOE to fix. So they still need to fix, or trying to have operating 20 schools, minus the 6. And right now they've got 14 on the short list that they believe from their own assessments can be opened, and that is our goal, is to give them every ounce of help that we can to get those 14 schools open so that they can have over 20 schools open without delay on the first day of school. And while the other schools are fixed, and to keep the pressure on them to keep fixing those schools and spending that money and opening the schools as the minute that they are ready throughout the school year. So it will be tough, but the plan that they have is the alternative to online education, because that was their easy answer months ago, online. Until we had teachers and teachers of the year and parents and everybody coming in here crying, even telling us, no, do not put them online. It's nationwide studies as to the effectiveness of the online learning during COVID. It was not effective. And it caused mental health issues, other problems, social issues. So on top of the ARP money, the legislature gave them $20 million. But then the governor took the $20 million. And the governor said, if you want to use this $20 million, then you need to send me a request. So they had to start all over again and send their requests up there, pretty much begging, please, use that money that was dedicated for education and get the mold out of our schools. Please, use it for a master electrician, because we do not have one in the Guam Department of Education. Please hire plumbers, please have our power restored. Please help us with the fencing. Please get the sewer line repaired at Rias. Please get the UPI's electrical fixed. Please give us carpenters, welders, plumbers at all the schools. They sent these requests in, and they testified yesterday that they are still waiting even for the mold mitigation. They're waiting for all those items, except for the tree removal and the outside debris removal. That's 2 months after the typhoon. They're still waiting. All of this while the clocks are ticking on our students and our parents and our teachers. But they're working hard. And public health, at first they said, wow, we could never inspect all the schools before they have to open, but they started and they upped their teams, and now they've got 3 teams. So they are meeting the demand or the request of DOE for when their schools are ready. They have been inspecting them. And they were vetting variances since May. And they've sent us the reports. The evidence is there. They're thorough. They're vetting them. They're getting it done. Until there was a press release from Adelup that says, we can't grant variances if a school fails. So we are here to remove any semblance of excuse from Adelup from allowing public health to grant these variances. And we are here to remind the governor that she has the power to detail inspectors. Please do that. We said that in Public Law 34-7. We said it in the typhoon emergency law, and we're saying it again in this law. If you have these inspectors and these plumbers and welders in the government of Guam, please send them to public health and DOE, and let's get this stuff done, and let's help these teachers and parents that are doing this work. And if we have retired inspectors that can be put on the job immediately, that's what the bill wants to allow you to do, and it's up to DOE to just do that as quickly as possible. And let's not threaten them again with online learning. While the parents and teachers and GW, this is a list of 50 items that the GW PTA is sending out cries for help from the people of Guam. Please bring me gas for my water blaster, water hoses, spackle, spray foam. They're going all out. Every PTA is, because every parent wants their students in the schools. So let's not tie their hands from doing this while they have the money to actually get it done. Let's not give them any more excuses to delay that. They are doing it, and let's continue to stay on track. All of us, the governor, the legislature, GDOE, every agency of this government, stay on track, fix those schools. Let's open as many as we can now, and let's keep fixing the rest until we can open them during this school year. Almost all of them are predicted to be open if we can get them this help. Otherwise, they're going to use that ARP money for personnel. And they're going to tell us to appropriate later for repair of the schools. That's not going to work. We've seen that. All of you have seen that longer than I have. So thank you to all my colleagues. I ask for your consideration of this bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the motion to move, please.
I'd like to move that Bill number 156-37 COR, or I'd like to make a motion, but with the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole to be placed on the third reading file.
On that motion of the Committee of the Whole to place Bill 156-37 COR into the third reading file, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries.
I'd like to move to rise from the Committee of the Whole with a recommendation that Bill number 156-37 COR be placed on the third reading file.
On that motion, colleagues, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Colleagues, we will stand in a moment's recess.
back from recess. We're back in the second reading. Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Sidus Masi, Madam Speaker, I wish to report back to the body after the deliberation of Bill number 156-37 COR as amended in the Committee of the Whole, with the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole to place on the third reading file.
On the motion to place on the third reading file, Bill number 156-37 COR, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. We're now on Bill number 91. We're on Bill number 91. Senator Blas, you have a point of order. Senator San Augustine, you are recognized. Senator Blas, do you have a point of order?
Madam Speaker, I move to go back to motions. Notwithstanding.
There's a motion notwithstanding to go back to motions. Is there any objection? There's an objection. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion fails.
Huh? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Raise your hands again. Keep them up. Motion carries. Second readings.
Oh, we're in motions.
We're on motion. Senator Blas, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, notwithstanding, I move to place Bill number 159-37 LS into the second reading of this emergency session.
Could you please repeat your motion?
Notwithstanding, I move to place Bill 159-37 LS into the second reading file in this emergency session.
Madam Speaker, can we have the Minority Leader read the bill, please?
Could you please read the title?
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Speaker, Bill 159-37 LS, introduced by myself, Frank Bloss Jr., Joanne Brown, Dwayne T.D. St. Nicholas, Tello T. Tidegui, Christopher M. Duenas, Jesse A. Lujan, and Thomas J. Fisher, is an act to amend subsection 4719A and B, and to add a new 4719C and D, all of Division 1, Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 26 of Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations relative to compliance requirements and regulations for Department of Education public schools.
All right. We'll take a 1-minute recess. We're back from recess. There's been a motion to place Bill number 159-37 onto the agenda, notwithstanding the rules. Bill 159-37 has not had a public hearing, and according to 2 GCA 2103, public hearings are mandatory. No bill may be passed by a legislature unless it has received a public hearing, except that when the presiding officer of a legislature certifies that emergency conditions exist involving danger to the public health or safety. The requirement for a public hearing may be waived, and in the event the bill is identical to a bill introduced earlier, which later bill received a public hearing, then a public hearing for the identical bill may be waived. So this statute has not been waived, although the motion is to waive the standing rules. So I'm ruling the motion out of order because it doesn't comply with 2 GCA 2103.
Point of order, Madam Chair. Point of order, Madam Chair. Point of
Senator
order.
Blasio, recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, this bill, as with other bills that have been deliberated and to be considered in this bill, did not have a public hearing, did not have the fiscal. It does fall in line with why we the emergency session, why we were called into emergency session. This meets all the criteria that has already been set in precedence and has already been ruled on.
That's correct, but there has been no request and no ruling.
Ma'am, I motion to move, okay, notwithstanding, okay, to basically to challenge the ruling of the chair.
If you are asking me to rule on 2 GCA, I am willing to do that.
Yeah, you know, Madam Chair, I'm motioning,
All right.
okay, to challenge the ruling of the chair based on your determination as to whether or not this bill continues to go on the session agenda.
All right. So 2 GCA 2103 allows the waiver
the
of
motion has been set, Madam Chair. There is no deliberation on it.
On the motion. Allows the waiver of a public hearing when emergency conditions exist.
That's not the motion, Madam Chair. The motion was to rule, okay?
These conditions
was to reconsider your ruling. That was the motion, Madam Chair. So okay? So move on the motion.
This is not debate.
So rule on it. Or so start the motion
Senator,
process. Go ahead.
We are going to vote on your motion to overrule.
Yes.
But before you do that, I am going to.
No, you don't, because there's no debate on this thing.
No.
Move
this
on
is
it.
not a debate.
That's right.
This is a ruling. I am ruling that out of order because you cannot waive statutes.
That's not.
So 2 GCA 2103
Move on
allows
the
the
motion.
waiver of a public hearing
Move
when
on the
emergency
motion, Madam Chair.
conditions exist. We will, Senator. When emergency conditions exist involving danger to the public health or safety.
You ruled on that already. Go ahead. Next one.
These conditions exist in the schools. However, the bill would allow students to attend schools that have failed sanitary inspections and would allow the operation of schools.
You are already deliberating on a bill that hasn't been accepted yet, Madam Chair.
I am ruling on the request.
No, you're not. What you're making is a determination of the chair as to what this bill is about.
You can yell
Let
at
that
me
be the
if you
determination
want.
of this body. That's what this rule is. That's what this body is
They
for.
are going to determine that.
You have started to make a determination on that.
I
No, you have not, Madam Chair.
By 2 GCA, I am mandated to do that. Or
You are mandated to basically stick with what's in front of you, not what you think about it. And we're
you are
challenging your.
challenge, but you have to listen to it first before you.
No.
vote on the
We already
challenge.
heard it. So I'm challenging what you've already ruled. Okay.
The bill
You
would allow
already ruled, Madam
students
Chair.
to attend schools that have failed sanitary inspections and would allow the
You have
operation
already
of schools
ruled, Madam
without a
Chair.
sanitary permit, and thus poses a greater risk to the health and safety of the students, so I am not waiving the public hearing on the bill. However, so I have ruled it out of order, but there's been a motion to overrule the presiding officer, and that is totally in line. You can waive the statute, if that's your motion, waive the standing rules. So there's a motion to overrule the chair and to place, to allow the motion.
Allow the motion, the bill, to be placed on session agenda. That's what the ruling is for.
So all in favor? Is there an objection? Well, no, there's no objection. There's a motion to overrule the chair. All in favor, please raise your hand. There's 8. Motion carries.
Thank you.
We're still on motions. Senator Clish, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to make a motion to introduce my bill onto the second reading on this emergency session, notwithstanding. Move to place Bill 15837 LS on the session agenda. Bill number 15837 LS, introduced by myself, Dwayne T.D. Nicholas, an act to authorize the operation of Guam public schools that are awaiting inspection for school year 2023 and 2024.
Suzuki Masi, and I want to thank you, for
ma'am.
sending your request for a waiver of the public hearing pursuant to the statute, for sending that in advance. And as you know, I have ruled on that, or I have issued a response to you. The 2GCA 2103 allows the waiver of a public hearing when emergency conditions exist involving danger to the public health or safety. And these conditions do exist in our schools today. However, this bill would allow students to attend schools that have failed sanitary inspections and would allow for the operation of schools without a sanitary permit, and thus poses a greater risk to the health and safety of the students, and I will not waive the public hearing on the bill. So I'm ruling your motion out of order. However, you may challenge the speaker if you...
Ma'am, I'd like to challenge that.
Fine. All in favor of overruling the ruling of the speaker and placing bill number 158-37 LS onto the agenda, please raise your hand. Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We're still under motions. Senator Barnett, you're recognized under motions.
I make a motion. Madam Speaker, I make a motion.
Madam Speaker, I was just recognized.
Yes, I'll get... You're recognized, Senator Barnett.
Do you want to unrecognize me? Or-
No, you're recognized,
Okay,
Senator
thank
Barnett.
you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I motion to, notwithstanding the House rules, move to the third reading file for the purpose of voting on Bill 156 without engrossment, ma'am.
Objection. Motion to vote without engrossment. There's been an objection.
I
All
just
in-
ask the support of my colleagues, as we have heard in the Committee of the Whole from Public Health and DOE, that
Excuse me,
that
Madam
they
Speaker,
need
it's
this
not
bill.
debatable.
I'm
It's
not
been a
debating, I'm
motion.
just stating.
There is a comment. There was a
Thank
motion
you.
made, now it's for a rule. There's been
Do I
an
still have the
objection.
floor,
It's
Madam Speaker?
non-debatable.
Do I still have the floor, or is this going to be, we're going to talk over each other all day?
Please restate your motion,
I'm not
Senator.
debating, I'm stating.
Senator Barnett, please restate your
I
motion.
motion that we move to the third reading file notwithstanding for the purpose of voting without engrossment on Bill 156-37, ma'am.
Objection.
On that motion, there's been an objection. All in favor of voting without engrossment on bill number 156-37 LS, please raise your hand. Motion fails. We're still under motion. Senator Nicholas, you are recognized.
Madam Speaker, make a motion to place bill number 15837 on the session agenda. Bill number 15837, introduced by myself, Dwayne T.D. Nicholas, an act to authorize the operation of Guam public schools that are awaiting inspection for school year 2023 and 2024.
All right, I thought we voted on this, but all in favor of placing that bill on the agenda, please raise your hand.
Madam Speaker, is there an objection?
Yes, 8. The motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, point of inquiry.
Your point of information.
Thank you. Point of inquiry, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to verify that Bill 159, because of what just happened right here, just wanted to verify that Bill 159-37 is on the session agenda. And to ask the clerk if it is on the session agenda.
I thought it was, but it's possible that it's not clear according to the clerk, so we can take that separate motion as well.
Okay.
So all in favor of placing Bill 159-37 on the agenda, notwithstanding the rules, please raise your hand.
Chris.
Motion carries. We're still under motions. Are there any other motions? If not, then we'll move to second reading. We're on Bill number 91. Senator San Agustin, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to accept Bill 91-37 COR as amended by the Committee on Education, Public Safety, and Arts, introduced by myself and Senator Chris Barnett, to add a new section 3134 of Article 1, Chapter 3, Title 17, Guam Code Annotated, relative to temporary employment of Guam Department of Education retired facilities and maintenance personnel. Madam Speaker, the committee report was filed on July 31st, 2023, and at 11:12 a.m. and posted that same day.
Would you like to speak on the bill? On the motion? Please proceed.
The only thing on the motion, Madam
Oh, I'm
Speaker,
sorry.
is that
This
it was just...
this is not from the committee. It's on the floor?
Yeah, it's on the floor already. It was introduced without the amendment that was taken care of by the committee.
I understand. All right, so on the motion to accept the bill number 91-37 as amended by the committee, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. Please proceed, Senator San Agustin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to move the bill to the third reading and discuss the bill.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, the bill is very simple. It's generally just to authorize the Department of Education to hire retired facilities and maintenance folks. And the reason why, because in the past few years, people have been retiring and they've been having problems hiring folks. And it's to bring back some of the retirees and be able to continue the work they need to do to clean the school or to maintain the school, in addition to everything else that's going on Department of Education. But that's where their shortfall is at. And that's generally what the bill is all about. Now, the same token in the bill, the superintendent must ensure a certificate of necessity shall be signed posting that they do still need the retirees. That's the catch. In other words, it's not just indefinite. The bill recognizes that if they hire them for 6 months or 12 months or 2 years, they got to prove that they really still need them. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I hope my colleagues will support the bill. It's very simple.
Thank you, Senator. On the bill, on the motion to place the bill, Senator Blas, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Speaker, in these times of emergency and trying to be able to provide the Guam Department of Education with all the tools necessary within their means, I stand in support of this bill. And it basically provides the avenue and some clarity with regard to the reemployment of Guam retirees. Madam Chair, again, these are exigent times, exigent circumstances, and recognizing that as our island is trying to recover from one major catastrophe and then trying to deal then with another, on top of a law that exists that would provide, and rightfully so, for the health and safety of our children and school children, as well as the employees, faculty, and staff of the Guam Department of Education. This provides another avenue, another tool, which this body is willing to be able to provide, wants to provide, so that we can get the schools open. And it is our hope that we can get them open and as safely, with the health and safety in mind of our children, and bringing back individuals who are subject matter experts, for lack of a better term, and those individuals who have the skill sets that are necessary to be able to achieve this. This is just but one of the tools in the toolbox that we can put, tools that we can put into the toolbox Will it resolve and be the be all end all of this thing? Probably not. But I think in concert with everything that this body would be able to provide to the Guam Department of Education through many different means, we'll be able to get there. So I stand in support of this bill 91-37 COR. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. On the main motion on bill number 91, is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized on the bill? Vice Speaker, you're recognized on bill 91.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I promise I'll be brief. I stand and rise in support of Bill number 91-37 COR, and I thank the good author of this legislation for putting this out as we continue to look at providing not just resources, but manpower to help the department out. And this is one way of supporting those efforts and showing the community that we want to make sure that we get these facilities and maintenance done in time and just support the efforts of Guam GDOE. So I stand and rise in full support of this measure, and I ask my colleagues to support the same. And if the good author can find it in his heart to allow me to be a part of that sponsorship, I would be very humbled. Sizos Masi, Madam Speaker.
Sizos Masi. Senator Kanata, on the bill, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I concur with the previous speaker, and I also asked Senator San Augustine, the good senator of GIGO, to also add me as a co-sponsor. Certainly, we are in a time of need for some of our retirees to come back if they wish to, and I'm hopeful that they will return and help us mediate our immediate concerns and rectify the standing issues in our schools. Thank you so much.
On the bill, is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized on the bill? On the bill, Senator Barnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Rise full support of this measure. Obviously, as a co-sponsor, came at the suggestion of the Guam Department of Education, and I commend the main author for this great bill that I fully support. And you know, we often talk about the heyday of facilities and maintenance at the Guam Department of Education. We now know that they are anticipating attempting to fill anywhere from 30 to 70 positions, and we've also heard in previous remarks on different bills that they're asking again for skilled laborers from the governor's office. And although that has been slow to know in coming, I think this bill is a great measure to bring back some of these retirees who have the institutional knowledge and most especially who have that desire and experience to do the work at the school level. And now's the time, ma'am. And I ask my colleagues to fully support this this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. On the bill, is there any other senator who'd like to be recognized on the bill? If not, then Senator San Augustine, you may close on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I'm sorry, Senator. We'll take 1 minute recess. I just want to wait for legal. She was checking one thing on this bill. Just
Yes, no
1
problem.
minute recess. We're back from recess. Senator San Augustine, you may close on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have one motion that the legal can make the technical corrections that needs to be made on the bill when we're done. But in addition to that, I'd like the motion that Vice Speaker Tina Rose Munoz Barnes be added on the bill, Senator Roy Kenneth, Senator Duane, and Senator Lujan, and all the members, unless they object to being added. And if they would allow and support the bill, I really would appreciate it. It's about taking care of the schools. This is something that I've even fought for when I was at the board, which I couldn't get the legislature to back me then. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. On the motion to add the sponsors, is there any objection? No objection. On the motion to allow legal technical corrections, any objection? No objection.
And motion to send it to the voting file. Thank you, ma'am.
And motion to place bill number 91-37 COR as amended by the committee and further amended on the floor to the third reading file. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. We're now on bill number 149-37 COR. Senator Paris, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to place substitute bill 149-37 COR onto the floor. It's an act to add a new section 12117A through N, Division 4, Chapter 12 of Title II of Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations, to amend Section 12117 Table of Contents, Section 12117A, B, G, H, J, L, and to add a new Section 12117M, to renumber current Section 12117M, all of Division 4, Chapter 12, Title II Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations, relative to the adoption of rules and regulations providing temporary expedited procurement protest procedures for acquisitions funded with the American Rescue Plan Act, Education Stabilization Fund, or Head Start grant monies allotted to the Guam Department of Education, attached hereto as Exhibit A.
On the motion to accept the bill as amended by the committee and further substituted on the floor, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. Senator Paris, motion to place on third.
Yes, thank you. I move to place bill number 149-37 as amended and further substituted into the third reading file, and I wish to discuss.
Please proceed.
Bill 149-37 aims to adopt the amended regulations promulgated by the public auditor as part of the requirements of Public Law 37-6, which emulates a previous law that implemented temporary expedited protest procedures that were used successfully during the American Recovery Reinvestment Act of 2009. The intent of these expedited procedures were, in the case of a protest, to expedite the use of federal funds before they expire December 2024. The stakes are seemingly higher now in 2023. During the recent GDOE oversight hearing, as well as the committee in whole, it was presented that approximately 2/3 of Guam's public schools were deemed not ready to open due to non-compliance with sanitary requirements, although this is rapidly shifting as schools are making the necessary upgrades to address issues that are highlighted from the Department of Public Health inspections or self-inspections of schools. As these schools come into compliance before the start date of August 23rd, procurement of supplies services become even more critical. Should there be a protest, it is essential a resolution is achieved expeditiously. Specifically, Bill 149, the accompanying regulations for Public Law 37-6, would expedite protests for capital improvement projects funded in whole or part by the American Rescue Plan Act, the Education Stabilization Fund, or the Head Start grant funds. I'd just like to provide a summary of these regulations. So under these expedited procedure regulations, among other things, an aggrieved person shall have the right to file a protest with a public auditor within 14 days from the date that such person knew or should have known the facts giving rise to the protest. 2, the aggrieved person is required to provide DOE no less than 1 business day advance notice prior to filing a protest to notify DOE in writing of its intent to file a protest with the public auditor. 3, DOE shall provide the procurement record to the public auditor within 2 business days of the date of filing the protest. 4, the aggrieved person, DOE interested party shall have up to 20 days from the date of filing of the protest to resolve it by mutual agreement. 5, a hearing on the merits of the protest shall be held within 15 days unless waived. 15 days, Saturdays, Sundays, and government holidays excepted. And the public auditor shall expedite the administrative review process and decide the protest by issuing a written decision within 20 days, Saturdays, Sundays, and government holidays excepted after the date of filing the protest. The decision of the public auditor shall be final, conclusive, and no action, judicial review, appellate review, or interlocutory appeal shall be available to any unsuccessful party. Prospective bidders, offers, and contractors who respond to the solicitation are required, as part of their response to the solicitation, to acknowledge and sign an affidavit stating that they are aware of the expedited procedure and that they agree to abide by the rules and the deadline in the regulation. So 20 business days to finalize a protest has been accomplished successfully during the American Recovery Reinvestment Act days of 2009 to 2011, when GDOE had last had an influx of federal funds. With today's influx of funds from the American Rescue Plan, Education Stabilization, and Head Start, combined with a huge need to bring our schools under compliance by August 23rd, this expedited protest procedure is needed to ensure that Public Law 37-6 is implemented in the case of a protest during this critical time and before the expiration of the Education Stabilization Funds, which is in September, and the ARPA funds, which is in December. So the Education Stabilization Funds is going to expire September of this year. The ARPA funds are going to expire in December 2024 to be used for much needed capital improvement projects for GDOE. I'd like to thank the public auditor and his staff for expeditiously promulgating these regulations, and also all those that came to the public hearing to testify, and those are my colleagues that came to the hearing as well. And I ask for my colleagues' support. Suzuas Masi.
Suzuas Masi. On the bill, Senator Barnett, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I too rise in full support of this measure, and I thank the author, and I pray that we expeditiously address this, as it is a needed component for the Guam Department of Education, especially given the timeline of the use of these funds and the tendency for protests. I mean, we all know it is what it is. And I also commend the author for working closely with the Office of the Public Auditor to move these rules and regs. And I ask for the support of the body to get this measure passed. Suzuas Masi.
Suzuas Masi. On the bill, is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized on the bill? Senator Blas, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I too rise in support of this piece of legislation. I want to thank and applaud the author of this legislation. I think that it's a well-known fact that over the last few years, she's been taking on the mantle and the role of being able to make sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's with regards to the procurement process and everything. And I kind of trust in her ability to be able to put this together in working with the OPA, so that we can expedite this. As she had mentioned earlier, there are timelines that are attached to this funding, and unfortunately, those timelines, those deadlines, don't take into or won't take into consideration any of the protests that may move the procurement process in past the expiration date of these things. And what we're trying to do is provide them the tools and the avenues to be able to resolve that as quickly and efficiently a manner as possible, so that we can actually get the tools necessary for the Guam Department of Education. So I appreciate again the authors of this legislation and the work that she's done, and I'm in full support of that. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. On the bill, is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized on the bill? On the bill? If not, then the sponsor may close on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I really appreciate the support from my colleagues. I would like to maybe add co-sponsors to the bill. Senator Chris Barnett, Senator Frank Bloss Jr., and if there's everybody else, if there's no objection to that. Yeah.
Is there any objection to the motion to add sponsors? Seeing no objection, motion carries. Motion to place on third. On the motion,
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to place Bill 149-37 as amended and further substitute on the floor to be placed in the third reading file for voting
on
purposes.
that motion to place the bill in the third reading, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. We're now on Bill number 159-37LS. Senator Blas, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Speaker, I move to place Bill 159-37LS, introduced by myself, Senator Frank Bloss Jr., Senator Joanne Brown, Senator Dwayne T.D. Nicholas, Senator Tello T. Tarigui, Senator Christopher M. Duenas, Senator Jesse A. Lujan, and Senator Thomas J. Fisher, an act to amend subsection 4719A and B and to add a new section, subsection 4719C and D, all of Division 1, Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 26 of Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations relative to compliance requirements and regulations for the Department of Education, public schools, into the third reading, and I'd like the opportunity to be able to discuss it.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we were called into this emergency session for the purposes of being able to try to make sure two things. One is to be able to provide a safe, healthy environment for our children, but also so that we can make sure that our children have the ability to be able to get the education that they need and they deserve. And as a result of the discussions that were had on a previous piece of legislation through the Committee of the Whole, there were a lot of things that were discussed and that were revealed, came to revelation. And I think of the most part, what I think is there's nobody here on this in this body that I believe, nor individuals who are charged with being able to ensure that our children have a safe environment, a safe and healthy environment to go to school. There's nothing here that says that we don't want that. We do want that. And in relative to a law that was passed and promulgated into law earlier in the year, where it provided basically, look, for many years the schools have not met the health and safety requirements necessary for our children. It's got to stop. And there was a move by this legislature to get that thing in motion. And granted that there were already some challenges that existed that made it, I don't want to say impossible, but very difficult to be able to meet the timeline necessary to be able to complete these requirements. There was this thing called Typhoon Marwar that came by. And, Marwar being, first off, a natural disaster of which our island had not seen in over 2 decades, it put for lack of a better term, a huge monkey wrench into this whole effort to be able to make sure that the schools are in compliance by the start of the school year 2023-2024. And so that's what we are in the emergency session for, so that we can provide the tools, so that we can ensure that as quick as possible, and I tell you what, there's nobody here that would rather desire that the desire to meet those mandates before the first child enters the school. That's what we all want. what the Department of Education was asking for, as well as the Department of Public Health and Social Services, give us the tools and basically the flexibility necessary so that we can meet these mandates. There's nowhere in the discussions that we had over the last couple of days where the Department of Education said, look, I don't want, let's forego having safe schools and safe environments. No, they've always said, that's what we want to be able to accomplish. That's what we want to be able to succeed. We just need time to be able to do this. However, we also need to be able to bring our children back into a learning environment, that is conducive to learning. And so what this bill basically provides is, we're not saying to repeal the mandate that was set up that the Department of Education will have schools in full compliance. What we're saying is, let's give them some of the leeway. Let's move the time frame, to the next school year. But further, you're not going to sit on your laurels. You're not going to sit back and say, oh, we got another year, we're going to do this. No, we want you to be able to provide a monthly report on the progress and the challenges that you are going to, that you may be facing, to be able to meet that. This does not say that this monthly report, but by the end, we're going to need another year. No, I think that it's set in stone already, because this basically brings this statute, this mandate, back to the original date. And Madam Speaker, I don't think we would be having this discussion. I wouldn't be standing here arguing for this, for this piece of legislation, had we not had a natural disaster that we had to deal with. We're still dealing with a natural disaster. I don't know about you, but last night I had a rolling power outage. On top of that, I still don't have internet. Can you imagine if we had to go and keep this here? All the other logistical and operational challenges that are going to be necessary to be able to get our children the education they need in a safe environment. So what we're doing is we're providing them, giving them the extra tools necessary. Will they need all the way up to 24, 25? We hope not. Okay? But it's giving them that flexibility. But also in giving them that flexibility, it also gives them the responsibility of being able to report back to us and report back to the power and to the executive branch that these are these areas that we made progress on. These are the areas that we continue to have challenges with. These are the things that we're going to. There's going to be that constant communications, so that if it falls by the wayside, if GDOE comes in next month and says, "Here's our monthly report," and we do nothing, and there's challenges we do nothing, then it falls back on us. But it provides us the opportunity to make sure that what we have mandated, what was mandated in 3704, and as far as the safe environment and a healthy environment for our children, is going to be met. We're not going to deviate from that. That's not going to. We're not going to say give you a variance for this thing and that. No, they're saying get it done the way it's supposed to be done. Here's the time that you're going to need to be able to do it. Give us a progress report on this thing so that we can help you out, so we can figure this out, so that at the end of the day, it's a safe and healthy school environment for our children, and a safe and healthy work environment for the staff, the teachers, the support staff, everybody that works in the schools that help to provide our children the education. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd like to be able to then sit back and listen to what my colleagues feel about this bill, what amendments, if necessary, in this bill. How can we make this better? At the end of the day, what we want to do is provide a product, this product and many other products to be provided in other bills, to the Guam Department of Education and to the executive branch, if you will, to make sure this gets done. So thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to speak on this, and I wait to hear more from my colleagues. Thank you.
On the bill, number 159-37LS, is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized on the bill? Senator San Nicolas, you're recognized on the bill.
I thank the honorable gentleman, a statesman over there, for introducing this bill along with my Republican colleagues. This is a wonderful measure. It shows what happens when calmer, cooler heads prevail. If it was up to me, I'd be out there groundbreaking on new schools already. I don't know how I'd find it, but I'd find a way to build new schools. I think repairing them is just, it's just not where we want to be, but we got to find a way to build new schools and replace the ones we already have. This bill, just visualize for a moment, and you're flying and you got 4 engines, and one of them just happens to blow out. The pilot won't say, everybody just let's all ditch this plane. A good pilot would probably say, hang in there, we got 3 more to go. You're going to fly us in there. And that's that's the condition of some of our schools, you know. We're missing 1 engine, but we have 3 more good engines, you know. We got the desire and the love and the dedication of our teachers. That's 1 engine. And the good leadership of our principals, and that's a good engine. We have our superintendent, brand new one. And he's another good engine. And we hope that these guys, you know, we trust that they would keep our kids safe. They wouldn't put them in harm's way. This measure allows a little bit of leeway, a little bit of breathing room, doesn't forego or disparage what we've set in motion. All it does is just allows us to take a step back, take a little bit of a breather, and allow the people who we entrust, we put faith in, just like how the people put faith in us, to let them do their job. And so I thank the very good gentleman, wonderful gentleman, and my Republican colleagues for this bipartisan measure, allowing for much cooler, calmer heads to prevail, being led by a great statesman. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. On the bill, is there any other senator who would like to be recognized on the bill? If not, Senator Barnett on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm not sure what we're doing here, but I think it's very clear that the people of Guam, the parents of Guam, the students of Guam want and deserve clean, safe schools now. Not next year, now. Guam Department of Education over the last couple of days has indicated to us that children will be getting an education, that they are working very hard to open as many schools as they can by August 23rd, and beyond August 23rd, they will continue to work very hard to open more schools. What this bill does is this bill will send our kids into schools that are not safe. That's why I'm confused about what we're doing here, because the Guam Department of Education has had the opportunity in the past to make determinations about how safe and sanitary our schools are, and they have failed at that responsibility. And I'd like to remind my colleagues that that's why we passed Public Law 37-4. And this bill is going to make it take longer for our students to get into clean, safe schools, because the Guam Department of Education, in testimony right here in this body just the other day, said that they plan and anticipate that most, if not all, schools will be open by late this year. This bill is going to make that take even longer by stretching it out to next year and by forcing the Guam Department of Education to come to the legislature. And I'm a little offended as the chair of education, because I think I've had them come to the legislature probably more than any other chair of education that I can remember. And we have already heard from the Guam Department of Education that what they need is the support to meet the mandates to comply with Public Law 37-4. That is exactly what they asked for. More support. We also heard in the Committee of the Whole that from Public Health that never before have they seen this level of urgency, this amount of hard work being done at the schools. And they're working hard to reach compliance. And they're working hard, and they ask for more time. But we heard right here that the schools are moldy, that they're not safe. And our people, our kids deserve clean, safe schools now, not next year. Right now, GDOE and its partners, they have their foot on the gas. They're moving quickly, working hard, even without the support of this administration. And instead of trying to derail their hard work to come into compliance with something we all agreed was necessary for our people and our children, we should be supporting them to reach these goals. We should be pleading and asking the governor and lieutenant governor to assist the Guam Department of Education not trying to send our kids into schools that aren't safe, that aren't ready because of Typhoon Mawar. It's a little contradictory to say that you want our kids to go to schools that are safe, but yet you're introducing a bill that is going to do the opposite of that and send our kids into schools that aren't ready, into schools that still need work. And again, we should be asking for that support to help GDOE meet its goals, not give them a way out. And so this idea that we're going to pass these bills that contradict each other and leave it on the desk of the governor and let her decide who she dislikes less, whose bill will get vetoed, whose bill will get signed. Pure politics is what I see here. It's disappointing that we agreed unanimously that our kids deserve to go to clean, safe schools now, not next year. And frankly, it looks like Adelup got to some people, and I'm just shocked and surprised that it was my Republican colleagues. It's disappointing, quite frankly, as GDOE again has committed that they're doing the hard work, they're moving forward. And now to move backwards. Like I said yesterday, this is not a dance floor. We're not doing the cha-cha. If we take 2 steps forward, we should keep going forward and not going backwards. If you care about the kids and you care about their education, you will not delay what they deserve, and that is to go to clean, safe schools now, not push it off a year and then bring GDOE in here now that there's no pressure, there's no motive, there's no need to meet a mandate that we set in place, a new standard. and leave it up to the honor system, which again, we know hasn't worked. That's why we set this new standard. Do we go eat lunch in a restaurant and pray that the owners and the employees are aware of what is safe and sanitary? It's not GDOE's job to determine what is safe and sanitary. It's the Department of Public Health and Social Services. And we have argued this issue, and we all agreed that schools that cannot pass public health inspections are not safe for our children. This is not about a stray marker on a desk. This is about real health and safety risks for our children. And I don't know, maybe it's because we're not invested in our public school system. Maybe it's because we don't have students in our public school system. Maybe it's because we went to private school. Whatever the reason is, it's not good enough. I ask that my colleagues, again, remember why we set this new standard, why we all came together and agreed that our students and our teachers who support this new standard get what they deserve, and what they deserve is to go to clean, safe schools now. That is the issue at hand here. Whether we want our kids to go to schools that are safe and clean or we don't. And this bill, to me, says that we don't. And that's why I rise in opposition to this measure. I beg and I plead with my colleagues to reconsider their support of this measure and to keep moving forward and to help us give GDOE and public health the tools they need to reach compliance with Public Law 37-4, which is already happening. The work is underway. The goal will be met. Schools will be open. Children will get an education. And we will address the safety and sanitation of our schools now. Any further delay jeopardizes the very education that those who introduced this bill claim they are trying to protect. Because you cannot expect our kids to do well in school, to get an education in mold-infested, rat-infested, flea-infested schools with dirty bathrooms. And that's why we passed Public Law 37-4, because we all agreed that it is public health that makes the determination about whether or not schools are safe enough for our students and our staff. Staff's working so hard right now with the help of the mayor's offices and again, the Guam Army National Guard, but I don't understand why my colleagues aren't pressuring the administration, especially those of us who also supported giving the Guam Department of Education $20 million. And for the governor to take that $20 million and hold it hostage and force the Guam Department of Education to come and kiss the ring of Adelup so that we can get the work we need done at the schools done. We should be working together collectively across this body with the different oversights to make sure that the agencies that we have oversight of are doing the most to assist the Guam Department of Education in reaching the goal of compliance with Public Law 37-4 and sending our kids to schools that are clean and safe. Now, it's a little perverse for the office of the governor and lieutenant governor to take credit for helping our schools with money that we gave the Guam Department of Education to help our schools. So instead of moving forward and keeping that energy, my colleagues have decided to let the administration off the hook and to, through this bill, give them exactly what they want. Play right into their political schemes. And I'm disappointed that some of my colleagues who support this measure, who I believe are usually more astute and observant of the facts that are before us, have chosen instead to close their eyes and kick this can further down the road. And I object, because again, our public school students, our public school teachers, our public school staff deserve clean, safe schools now, not next year. So I ask my colleagues who have introduced this measure to please reconsider their support of it and instead do what we can to keep moving forward so that our kids can go to clean, safe schools now. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. On the bill, Senator Taitigui, you're recognized. Then Senator Dueñas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let's make one thing very, very, very clear here. There's not one senator in this body does not care for the safety and welfare of our school children. Not one person. And then if anyone says anything differently, shame on them, because they're lying to push their own agenda.
Objection, Madam Speaker. If we cared about our kids,
me,
we'd send them to schools that are safe.
Excuse
Senator,
me.
you have a point of
Excuse me.
order.
A little more decorum.
Oh.
I didn't interrupt you, Senator Barnett. I didn't interrupt you.
Order, please.
We are all very
Senator.
passionate.
Order. You are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think we are all very passionate about our school children. But to peg people in this body, that's shameful. When everyone has been here to talk about a bill that was passed by this body, correct, a bill that was passed by this body 37-4. A bill that we all agreed. That's why we're here today, my colleagues. Because it's flawed. That's why we're here today, to put another bill to fix Public Law 37-4. Bill 159-37 does the same thing. In fact, there's nothing stopping 159-37, this bill that we're talking and moving forward to allow the variances that the bill 156 that the good speaker authored with the oversight chair, and then why we're here today, to fix Public Law 4-37 by adding a variances that was not added on
Madam
the
Speaker,
last
I have a
bill.
point of information, Madam Speaker.
Can you,
And I think it was indicated in Committee of the Whole that the Department of Public Health and Social Services and the Guam Department of
Madam Chair,
Education.
Madam
I'm
Speaker,
trying to
this
finish
is
my point of
debate.
information.
Senator
please.
Barnett, I will
I'm sorry,
recognize
Madam
you on
Speaker.
your point of information.
Okay,
as soon
thank
as
you. I just want to provide the information that DPHSS and GDOE were moving forward for months. Variances were granted, and this policy on granting variances was completely reversed when Adelup issued a press release that said we can't grant variances. And
Senator
so
Barnett,
I
thank you.
object
Thank you,
to the
Senator
idea that
Barnett.
this
You're
bill
out
is
of order.
flawed.
Senator Taitakui, you're recognized.
I believe we were all here listening to these round tables. I know I was present at most of any round table that had public health or Department of Education. I heard the same thing. But once again, we are here in this emergency to fix Public Law 4-37. I'm probably switching that round to 37-4, but that's why we're here today. And this bill, Bill 159, that we're discussing on the floor right now, doesn't take away allowing variances. It doesn't do that. But I will tell you one thing it does. It requires accountability for the schools to come back, the superintendent to come back to us on a monthly basis to give us a status report of all the schools until all the schools have their sanitary permit. I don't see another bill out here this whole week that has that on it. We're talking about having these schools be accountable. This bill does that. And I'm sure every parent is going to want to see that same report. And I'll be happy to share it with any of our children's parents to see what the status is. That's why this bill has to pass. Because the other bills don't have that. We're not going to drop the ball. We're not closing our eyes to anything. We are opening them wide and ensuring that our schools can be open to take in our students. And if that superintendent or anyone else brings students into an unsafe school, if that's what the concern is, we heard it. We heard it from DOE. And don't you think that public health is not going to continue to inspect these schools? To ensure that these schools are safe to go in? The superintendent made it clear. He would not send any students into an unsafe school. Madam Speaker, to say that one of us has bowed down to kiss any kind of ring, that's ridiculous. We're here trying to assist where we can. But the areas that we can't control are the other agencies. We can't control them. The governor does. The governor can deploy anybody from all her agencies to assist not only public health, but DOE as well. We are giving her the opportunity by having this bill, the bill Bill 156-37 that we've been debating on this week, and even another bill that's going to come up. We are going to give her the tools that there is no excuse after that to have her agencies come and assist any of these schools that need help. That's what this bill does as well. This is not a way out for anybody. This is not a way out. This is a way of moving forward. We've had variables that have come in front of us for our schools. So we have to go with the flow, people. This typhoon that we had recently, we have to adjust. Throwing the hammer down and being stubborn and not finding any other kind of solution, that's not the way to move forward. That's not the way to help our children. That's why we're in an emergency session right now, to make those amendments to the law that we passed recently, 37-4. That's why we're here today, and that's why we're here, asking this body to support Bill 159-37, because we found another solution to help our children, one that has an accountability system to it, that requires a report every month. That being said, Madam Speaker, every single one in this body is doing everything they can to ensure that our students are safe and to provide them with an education that they so deservedly should have. So I ask my colleagues, please, to support Bill 159-37, to support 156-37, to support 158-37, 91-37, and also 149-37. Because they're all good bills. They're all good bills. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
On the bill, Senator Dueñas, you're recognized on the bill.
Sidus Masi, Madam Speaker, and I certainly rise in support of Bill 159-37. Going to make a little attempt at humor here and quote Shaggy, "Wasn't me." I have not received a text, a phone call, any communication from the governor, lieutenant governor, or anybody from Adelup. I think save one time to go down and be rebuked for Bill 1136. So I want that to be very clear on the record. I have not caved nor been contacted by anybody to make this decision. As a matter of fact, Madam Speaker, I had to contemplate when being approached with this opportunity. But it was clear to me, first and foremost, by the reluctance to go into the Committee of the Whole. And then it was clear to me during the reason why many of us wanted to go into Committee of the Whole, that we needed information to see if Bill 156 in its totality and the other bills introduced would do the job. I want to go on the record, Madam Speaker, and saying that I'm going to vote for every single bill that's going to be contemplated in the daily file when we go to voting. I'm going to vote yes on every single measure. But Madam Chair, once again, I'll reiterate what I said in my closing statement during the round 2 of the Committee of the Whole. When we went and had the discussion with Department of Public Health and Department of Education, and I must say, during these entire oversights and roundtables and others that we've been having, much to my disappointment, I don't know whether it was by invitation or non-prodding, But we never had a really, really good communication on the numerous roundtables that we had with public health, who was clearly in the driver's seat when it came to meeting and fulfilling their end of the obligation to comply and to open our schools on time as a result of 37-4. So I was skeptical in terms of what really was the commitment. Over the 2 days of the Committee of the Whole, I became confident with Ms. Francine and Peter John that they are doing everything within their power and they support Bill 156. But it became clear that more than likely it will not be enough. Madam Chair, one thing that perplexes me, since I intend on voting on every measure that's going to make it to the third reading file, is why we would even be worried about this bill if 156 will do the job. It would be moot at that point. And I know my colleagues think that's its politics because of the fact that there will be a veto of 156 in favor of, and I'm hoping that my colleagues will join me on this. I will vote to override that veto. Because I'm going to tell you right now here in the record, I'm insulted at any insinuation that I would support Bill 159 in any sort of collusion or any sort of reversal. I want all of these measures to pass, and I implore the governor to sign every single one of them. And I hope, if 156 is vetoed, that we override it like we've overridden 3 bills now in this session. I get the battle, believe me. I know it very well. Plenty of scars after 20 years. But I will not be accused on this floor and not stand up and vehemently say that I would be part of any political game to support this bill because there's some sort of politics afoot. This is a sincere effort after 2 days of listening to a conversation between the Department of Education and Department of Public Health to ensure, and I cannot emphasize this more, that what we support is our children going back to clean and safe schools. But the problem enumerated between Department of Education Superintendent and Public Health that they stated clearly was, and Public Health made it clear they're not going to move on 2 major issues. One is to disallow teachers and other individuals to come onto the campuses for any other business than what it's cleared for, because of the mandate. The second was the superintendent saying that his strict reading of the mandate would be that there would be, and Public Health stated clearly, they would not partially allow a school to open, even though there may be up to 50% of the rooms that are fully capable of coming in compliance with safety and security, would have to include the administrative building and any structure where they're going to be doing feeding of students and any other thing that they're going to conduct. The third is, they made it very clear that it's a bureaucratic process still that we put in place in 156 to have the director be the one, after receiving a report, probably going through a meeting of environmental health, to say, do you concur with these variances that we've done? Send it up to the director, and have the director probably take these hundreds of variances coming in to sit there, sift through, and approve in 3 weeks. Now, can it be possible? Absolutely. And if it happens, then this bill is moot. It wouldn't even matter. Because this 156 should be a complementary law alongside of this law. Does it change the alacrity? No. The superintendent, who I'm very refreshed, I'm glad the Board of Education, in my opinion, made a damn good decision. This superintendent sat in front of us and said, I'm taking the bullets, I'm committed to this. And I will not let one student, one parent, one staff member walk into an unsafe facility, regardless of what laws you pass. In speaking to this superintendent that I think the board made a damn good decision in selecting on the side, he mentioned to me, and he was even questioned on this floor, would you allow students to go to Dodea schools inside the fence when you had authority in that position? And he said no. But he said he will not do it now that he's outside of the fence as well. You know, it perplexes me once again. We're here and we're supposed to be a deliberative body who respects the deliberation. Yet we have had to fight tooth and nail to put on a measure that was identically placed. In fact, even with more time, the measure having been introduced yesterday, we've had our colleagues who have spoke passionately, I'm very capable of it myself, say, you don't like it, vote it down. But to insinuate that the other colleagues have made some sort of acquiescence, some sort of deal, some sort of collusion, I do not accept, nor do I respect it. I have known the author of this bill, Frank Blas Jr., since the days his father was a lieutenant governor, since he was in, what herd is that, sir? 23rd herd, with my cousin, the late TGD Cruz, God rest his soul, out there protecting the lives of our people when he was a police officer, and as a senator, as a Homeland Security advisor, as somebody who cares about this island and spent his lifetime in public service protecting the people of Guam. I don't think my colleague Frank Blas Jr. would introduce a bill such as this, particularly because every night he goes to sleep with somebody who wakes up in the morning and spends, no, not the 7:30 till 2:30 in the afternoon, but probably 06:45 to 17:45 every day in Atacao, if he thought that he was for 1 second going to compromise the safety and security and sanitary conditions for our children to learn in. One of the reasons I can tell you that for sure is because in the finance world, the greatest indicator, well, not flawless, of future returns is past performance. And this gentleman is one hell of a performer when it comes to taking care of our people. So I sat with my colleagues, and yes, I thank Senator San Nicolas for joining us on this bill. And we said, we are not going to do something open-ended. We are going to hold this superintendent, as far as I'm concerned, who is absolutely worth his medal, to his word, that he would come before this body monthly, not by summons, but voluntarily, to give us a report and a situational awareness of every step of the way on a monthly basis. I actually think, Madam Speaker, with the complement of bills that we should pass in this legislature today, if possible, will actually be the roadmap to getting this done before 2024, but being able to put students in schools on time, on a schedule, so their parents and everyone can understand what they're doing in the next 3 weeks, because they are the ones who are in the middle of all of this. We can make our political pronouncements all we want. I have taken plenty of opportunity to be disappointed by the administration, but when it comes the time when we have to make a decision, because the people who are stuck in the middle are parents and children. They will be the final arbiters of whether or not the schools are ready for their kids to go. I just want to give them an opportunity. And I think this bill has plenty of integrity. Thank you, Madam Chair.
On the bill, Senator Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Madam Speaker, I move to recess until 2 p.m. today.
There's an objection?
I withdraw.
On the bill, Senator Fisher, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I recognize the hour, and I realize that we have to get to lunch, so I'll try and be brief. I'd like to, first of all, associate myself with the remarks of Senator Duenas. Entirely agree with them. I can assure you, to my friend on the other side of the aisle, I can assure you, sir, that I received no phone call, telegraph from Adelup at all, but I can also tell you if the governor had called me, I would have listened to her with respect. The governor is not the enemy. The people of Guam don't want us to, draw factions and go to war with one another. They're concerned about the kids getting educated. She is not the enemy. We're members of different political parties, but I recognize that she's not the enemy, and I'm not going to treat her as a piñata to advance my own political or personal agenda. I'm just not going to do that.
Point of personal privilege, Madam Speaker. I have not in any way indicated that the governor is the enemy. I've only indicated that I am disappointed that her administration and all of its power has turned a blind eye and refused to help our public schools in a meaningful way. That is what I did. I did at no point in any of the remarks I made on the floor indicate that I consider the governor an enemy. I treat her with respect whenever I see her, and with all due respect, I'm offended by the remarks of Senator Fisher.
Ma'am, Senator Barnett
You have the floor, Senator Fisher.
Yes, thank you. I just have to observe that Senator Barnett was out of order because that is certainly not a point of personal privilege. That is merely speechifying. So anyway, let me just follow up with that. You know, thousands, tens of thousands of people on this island voted for the governor because they trusted her judgment. And I'm going to trust the people of Guam and their judgment. So again, I'm not going to treat anybody at Adelup like a piñata just to advance what I want to happen. I want to work collectively, and everybody over here wants to work collectively to get those kids, their derrieres, in the seats. Now, I think that at the beginning of the discussion on this bill, again, unfortunately, on the other side of the aisle, we were waving a bloody shirt and making it look like, you know, hell and brimstone was coming down on us. I remember that the superintendent, again, I really associate myself with Senator Duenas. The superintendent said the schools can open. The superintendent said the schools can be cleaned at the same time they are opened. I trust his word. I particularly trust the fact that he said that he would not allow children in locations that are dangerous, and I believe him at that. I believe he has the expertise to work through that. Remember, with this bill and the others that are offered, we're going to not have double sessions. That whole nightmare, we're going to avoid it. We're not going to have online learning, God forbid, because it doesn't work. And double sessions are a nightmare. They're disruptive for families and everything. Hardly needs to be mentioned, but you know, we're yakking about that, but the real point is the children are not getting an education. You can't recover that. We went through COVID. There was 2 lost years that we will never recover. We'll be feeling that throughout the next generation. We have got to get the children in school. The Department of Education is the most important foundational block in this government. The Department of Education is about the future entirely. Unlike other agencies that are working with clear and present problems, the Department of Education is preparing Guam for a time after we are all dead. I want them to succeed at that. I want Guam to succeed. And this is the way to do it. Get these kids educated, make it happen now. Thank you very much, ma'am.
On the bill, is there anyone else on the bill? Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to recess until 2:30 today.
Is there any objection to motion to recess until 2? Seeing no objection, motion carries. Recess until 2.